Hello, this is Mallory Drover. Today is Monday, August 21st, 2017. I'm a second year at Antioch College. I'm recording this message as a warning because I am angry. I am burning, and I'm sick and tired of being told to keep my head down and ignore what is happening around me. I'm on campus right now, and I think I found a good place to hide, but there's a lot of them out searching for me. Listen. There is something wrong with my college. If you're a student at Antioch, you might already know exactly what I am talking about. I finally started to notice things when I got back from co-op, things I didn't really see before. Antioch College exists in its own unique ecosystem of supernatural activity. The boundary between our world and something else is thinner here. So look. You've heard the phrase, crossing to the other side. When a person dies, they cross from the world of the living to the spirit world on the other side of the boundary in between. But then there's haunted houses. Somehow, for some reason, the barrier in a haunted house between the world of the living and the world of the dead is not as clear. It's not black and white. It's all shades of gray. Antioch College is gray. This is a gray place. But this isn't just a haunting. There are things creeping around out there that are much more terrifying than just ghosts. But believe me, we have plenty of ghosts, too. But look, listen. The place on the other side of the broken barrier at Antioch College isn't just heaven or hell. It's an entirely foreign plane of existence. But the thing is, the more time you spend here, the more exposure you have, the more it will change you, crack you, change you, crack you, and reshape you. Like Zeke. Zeke is a student that graduated last quarter. I had seen them around before, and I always knew they were a little weird. They would greet people by saying, "Hello, human." They liked to creep around in the steam tunnels a lot, finding ways to get into all the abandoned buildings, even the ones boarded off for asbestos. Zeke apparently once spent an entire quarter living in the Glen. I ran into them on campus in my first week back as they were crawling out of a steam tunnel. At first, in the dark, I thought it was a creature, a monster or something, because I saw their hands reaching up before they pulled themselves out of the steam tunnel. And Zeke has webbed hands. Everyone was in this complete mental fog. Everywhere I looked, students barely talked to each other. They would sit down or lay down in random places, and they'd stay there for hours. Sometimes they were taking a nap, but sometimes they were just staring at the wall. Another weird thing was the senior spring diet. I found myself sitting with my friend Jonathan at the dining hall. He was a senior last quarter, and I noticed that he was eating something I didn't recognize, something that you had to ask the kitchen for. At first, I thought it might be tofu, but it didn't smell like tofu. It smelled strong and musky and sweet. And finally, I asked him, "What is that? What are you eating?" And he told me it was meat. Raw meat marinated in something, and that it's actually a tradition at Antioch to serve the stuff every spring. He said that he had noticed it for the first time this year, and once he tried it, he started craving it until he always had a few bites at every meal. And then there was the screaming. It was cicada mania last quarter. Antioch has been around for 100 years? And in all that time, things have been happening in patterns and cycles. There are seasonal forces of turmoil, destruction, and malady here that we've taken for granted. There's creatures and forces that exist in predator-prey cycles to keep each other in check. Around and around and around, these things feed off of each other, and they feed on us. Us. It turns out that when the Brood-X cicadas come out every 17 years, they make most of the student population a little crazy, a little insane. The screaming started about 3 weeks into the quarter. Students would all gather in these clumps outside, and they'd raise their heads up to the sky, and they would scream and scream. This one student, Storm, she was never in her right mind, even before she came to Antioch. Whatever she really is, she was that way before she got here. If you were passing by, everyone in the group would ignore you while they screamed, except Storm. Storm would make eye contact with you while you passed, as if her wailing were meant just for you. What was that? Shh, what was that? Shh, 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 shh. Okay. The thing is, I want to get the whole story here. There's a lot of freaky, cultish, supernatural shit in this place. But the thing is, there's real-world, systemic problems here, too. And they exacerbate the turmoil. It wouldn't be so easy for Antioch Strange to break the souls of the students here if Antioch College weren't so effective at breaking their spirit. Part of the problem is the quarter system, which you may already know about. The quarters last about 11 or 12 weeks, and we get 2-week breaks between each quarter. Starting in our first year, students go on co-op every third quarter. This creates a rotation so that there's never more than one class away on co-op at a time. Now, what that means in practice is that because of the co-op rotation, there is never the same body of students on campus from one quarter to the next. A third of the students who went to class with you in the fall, a third of the energy you invested in making friends and getting to know people is wasted when you come back in the winter because they will be gone, vanished, away on co-op. That entire social support system you built for yourself is destabilized. This happens every single quarter. You never get used to it. Another thing, because we never get more than 2 weeks off at a time, students burn out fast here. One of the first things I was warned about from the upperclassmen is that you have to overcredit if you have any hope of graduating on time. By the time week 8 of the quarter comes around, any little thing that you procrastinated a couple weeks ago comes back around to bite you in the ass. You know it's coming every single quarter, but it's impossible not to fall into the same catch-22 time management traps. What was that? Shit. I think they might have heard me. when they can't find me anywhere else, they'll come back and check the rooms. But I'm not done. They're afraid of me right now. That's why they're hunting me. I'm a threat, and they know it. Now that the fourth years have ascended to the ranks of the alumni and the third years are on co-op, there is a power vacuum on campus. The first years haven't been here long enough to understand how dangerous the stakes are if Antioch Strange gets a hold of you, and the upperclassmen aren't here anymore to act as safeguards. I'm going to get this out so that this won't happen again. I am done with just riding out the storms in this place and watching cycles repeat over and over. From now on, people are going to know the whole fucking story so that no one else has to die. Where was I? So, if you do manage to keep up in your classes, the thing is, you won't have a spare moment for anything else. The stress of trying to keep up with it all builds until you get sick. At any single given moment, either you or someone you know will currently be ill. Maybe it's the flu, maybe it's a cold, or maybe, just maybe, it's a full-on psychotic mental breakdown. 2 weeks is not nearly enough time to recover from that. Even that 2-week grace period that we get between quarters is not actually a break. It's barely a transition period. The quarter system, as it exists now in summer of 2017, is just one of the conditions that turns up the intensity dial for what students experience here. It beats us down until we're stressed, physically and mentally ill, and without a stable support network to rely on. Last quarter, it should have been easy. It should have been a good quarter. I knew better than to fall behind, but I just couldn't help it. It was too much. I didn't have a job anymore after I got back from co-op. I couldn't make rent. I had to borrow money. As I ran out of money for food, I had to rely on meal tickets that my friends shared with me so that I could eat. I decided when I transferred here that I would take student loans this time so that I wouldn't have to work 4 jobs and live in my car. I shouldn't have had to worry about making rent and paying the gas bill. That's what my refund check was for. I got full tuition when I came to Antioch. I only needed the loans for living expenses. But as the weeks went by, for some reason, it wasn't enough. I know exactly why now, but that doesn't change all the stress that I went through last quarter. When I found my friend at the start of spring, I knew something was wrong. She was a third year, so she was still on campus while I was gone on co-op. Lily told me that a lot had happened while I was away, but she didn't have the energy to explain it all. She said that she couldn't take it anymore, and this would be her last quarter at Antioch. After spring, she was leaving. She should have just left. As soon as the decision was made, she should have just left instead of lingering here for 1 more quarter. That's how it gets you. That's how this place gets you. Look, if you're a student here and you think you can take it, good for you. Stay at Antioch. Aim for graduation. Because if you can survive Antioch College, you can do absolutely anything. Anything. You can change the whole fucking world because this place is going to change you. If you play this right, you can walk into that lake of fire and emerge the embodiment of the flame. Not only that, but if you make it to graduation, you'll join the ranks of 100 years worth of powerful alumni who also came to Antioch and lived through the impossible. That will bind you together like nothing else can. However, the truth is that not everyone can walk through fire and be forged into something new. Some people will just burn away to ash. Lily was such a good person, such a good friend. She loved to wear flower print dresses, and she'd wear matching flowers in her hair. Her jewelry box had a whole garden of flower-shaped earrings in every color of the rainbow. I wish that I had been there for her when it mattered, but at the time, it was so hard for me to keep myself together that there wasn't enough energy left over to give to someone else. Students here end up isolated and alone because everyone they know is struggling just as hard to stay afloat. And sometimes it feels like reaching out to each other will just end up dragging you both under. One week, about halfway through the quarter, I was invited to a topless picnic on the main lawn of the campus. I invited Lily, but she didn't answer my texts. Riding my bike to and from the campus became more than I could handle as I was struggling not to pass out from heat stroke, no matter how much water I drank. The chance to be on campus, outside, without a shirt on, seemed like a really good idea. And you know, it was. I enjoyed the picnic itself. It's one of the only good memories I have of spring quarter. Jonathan, Izzy, and I, and a couple other friends all spread out some blankets on the lawn, stripped our shirts off, ate snacks, and played card games for a couple hours. But by the next day, all of us had been severely sunburned. Apparently, you can get second-degree sunburns. Blisters broke out across my back, my shoulders, my chest, and my upper arms. I accidentally burst a whole section of blisters, and they began to seep down my skin before I even understood what was happening. After that, I spent a couple weeks shirtless and isolated in my house in town because I couldn't stand the feeling of fabric on my skin. It turned out that not only was our group affected, but in the course of 1 week, almost the entire student body broke out into sun blisters. I kept trying to get a hold of Lily to see if she was okay, but she still wasn't answering her phone or any of my messages. My stress began to build as I missed classes. I fell behind on assignments. I didn't get my financial aid refund when I thought that I would, and I had to scramble to pay the gas bill on time. It was week 8 that I finally cracked. I was stressed about classes, about not knowing how much longer I'd be able to pay my bills, and from being isolated from my classmates. When I asked around and tried to find Lily, someone told me that she had already left Antioch. There was something new wrong with my friends who were seniors. They were walking around like zombies. They didn't even see me when I was standing right in front of them and waving. At night, I kept waking up from nightmares that I couldn't breathe. I was trying to catch up on my homework in the library one day, but I had been staring at the same page of my psychology text for 25 minutes, and I couldn't remember reading a single word. I began trembling, and I felt like there was no air. I thought I was going to die, even as the thought crossed my mind, "You are going to die." I felt stupid and over-dramatic, but I couldn't shake it. I am going to die. 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 I'm going to die. I was sitting paralyzed. I felt like I was being boiled, like something was trying to cook me. Zeke walked by, and I could see gills and green scales along their neck. One of the students sitting at the computer was all white and wispy like mist. The letters in my psychology textbook had turned into hieroglyphs or something, and then the tears came and I couldn't see anything. I was mortified that someone might see me like that, so I got up and I left all my things behind. I went downstairs and I wandered through the stacks until I found a couch in the study corner. Somehow I knew that there were students outside screaming again. It choked me. I slid off the couch and onto the floor because I needed to feel the cold cement on my burning skin. I felt where my shirt touched each of the half-healed blisters, and I just laid there, feeling the screams outside until they finally stopped. I don't even know if I was conscious. Eventually, though, I heard a voice and I looked up. It was Lily, and I was so relieved to see her. I reached for her, and she got down on the floor and she wrapped her arms around me. Just a minute. Just a minute. I'm gonna turn this off for a minute. Lily came to me in the basement of the library, and she helped me calm down. I told her that I had heard that she already left Antioch, and she said that she didn't leave the way that she wanted to, but that she had left a few weeks ago. She helped me get to my feet, and she led me outside and across the street into the glen. We took off our shoes and we stood in the water and we let it flow over our legs. She splashed me once, and so I splashed her back. And before long, we dropped our skirts and we just kept splashing each other until we were both laughing and soaked. She was like a dream as the skirt of her blue flowered dress rippled and flowed over the surface of the water. I felt so much better by the time we climbed back up onto the bank that I almost started crying again with relief. Lily walked back to the library with me, both of us still soaking wet, and she held my hand. I got back just in time to get my things before the library closed. I asked her to stay for just a minute while I got my stuff, and then I could walk her to her car. And she smiled and she nodded at me, but when I came back outside again with my backpack, she was gone. As I walked my bike home, I kept thinking that at least she was happy. The next morning, I sat with Jonathan and the other seniors at the dining hall for breakfast. They were all eating the senior spring diet when I spotted something on John's plate. And I asked him, "What's that?" And I pointed at something that was glinting and caught the light. And when he didn't see what I meant, I reached over and I pulled it out of his food. It was an earring stud in the shape of a small blue rose. Jonathan glanced at it, but he just shrugged and kept eating. All of the seniors just kept eating. I looked at John's plate again as he picked up another piece with his fork to take a bite. The back of the earring fell off of the ear on his fork. I could see it now, like a veil had been lifted from my eyes. Suddenly I could see what was really on his plate, what was on all of their plates. And I suddenly felt so sick that I bolted from the table and I ran to the bathroom. I made it there just in time to puke into the toilet as I was hit with another panic attack. Over the next several weeks, I lost weight because I couldn't eat. I told myself that I could still catch up in my classes if I just forced myself to do the work, but I had fresh anxiety attacks every time I opened my psychology book. Eventually, my blistered skin healed and it began to peel away. I found pieces of peeled dead skin around campus from other students who were recovering from cicada mania. The seniors were worse than zombies now. They each existed in their own mental world of psychosis, struggling with paranoia and panic, unable to distinguish reality anymore. Then the alumni work project came. The alumni brought a strange, disconnected sort of calm. They held events around campus where they sat in groups around little tables and had conversations with current students. They wanted us to tell them about Antioch and to tell them if there were any problems with the college that they should know about. I sat with different alumni several times, and I tried to tell them what I had seen. I told them everything that had happened to me since I got back from co-op. The human body with the patchwork skin mounted on the wall in birch, the disappearing underclassmen, the senior spring diet, the interdimensional portals on the second story of the old art building. All of it. I told them about the students who would clump together and scream, and everyone's burning and peeling skin. And one of the alumni started laughing. And he said, "Oh, that happened to me once when I was a student here." Then he and a couple other alumni started reminiscing about it. That was their reaction to everything I told them. When I told them about my friends who went missing, they said that they were already aware of Antioch's, quote, problematic retention rate. When I brought up the senior spring diet, they all nodded and smiled and said they were glad that Antioch was still keeping up with old traditions. It was like all the pain and suffering the students were going through was just a standard fucked up rite of passage here. I thought about leaving. I came so close to leaving this place. But I told myself I couldn't find another full tuition scholarship anywhere else. I felt like if I left without graduating, taking those student loans would have been for nothing. I ran into Zeke one more time before they graduated that spring. I was walking through campus after dark, and I found them standing alone and painting a wall by the light of a street lamp. It was a mural of a tall cityscape in pastel colors with fish flying through the air like they were birds. Zeke glanced at me when I stepped closer, and they said, "Hello, human." And I asked, "Your hands and feet, they're webbed. Antioch did that to you, right? Being here changed you." And they glanced at me and just kept painting, and they said, "Not really. This would have happened to me sooner or later. It was probably inevitable." I said that I didn't understand. Antioch College is connected to the strange place, right? The strangeness touches anyone who spends time on campus. It changes them and makes them strange, right? Zeke just said that they had already been strange before coming to Antioch. They said, "Weirdos are attracted to Antioch. Antioch Strange just enhances the weirdness that was already there." A few days later at commencement, I could see that something had changed in the seniors. That blank, empty expression they all shared before was replaced now with something feverish and manic. Some of them even looked normal and happy. I tried to remember Zeke in the dining hall, eating the raw meat like Jonathan and the other seniors had. The more I thought about it, though, I realized I'd never seen Zeke eating the stuff. I think they might have even been a vegetarian. So, was that the secret then? As long as you're someone who already has some kind of supernatural fourth-dimensional weirdness inside you, you could get through Antioch's other dimensional ecosystem and still come out as yourself on the other side? So then, what was this place doing to me? From what I've come to understand, first, this place tries to break you. If Antioch can't break you, it tries to crack you. Each time you get through another Antioch storm, the trauma opens up more cracks in your soul that the strangeness can squeeze through. But what happens when Antioch tries to break someone like Zeke, who's already strange? Can it still try to crack them and creep in by increments, or by damaging Zeke's defenses? Does the strangeness only manage to unleash Zeke's inner power? What kind of Antioch trauma did Zeke have to survive before they grew gills and their hands and their feet transformed? By the time summer quarter began 2 weeks later, something inside me had changed. Instead of feeling empty and exhausted, I felt ready. When I tried to register for classes online, I found that my registration had been put on hold because I hadn't paid my student fees. On Monday morning, I went to the financial aid department. When I walked into the office of the financial aid director, Michelle Guile, she was watching Netflix on her computer. I sat down and explained that I couldn't register for classes because my student fees weren't paid, but that shouldn't be the case because my grants and student loans cover all those things before the rest of that is given to me in a refund check. Michelle didn't even exit out of Netflix. I felt a heat inside me, hissing and crackling with anger as I glanced between my financial aid folder and the Netflix display. Casually, I pulled my phone out of my backpack and held it up. I pretended to scroll as though I were checking social media as I nonchalantly turned on the camera and took 2 photos. 2 clicks. That's all it took for her to fix my financial aid delay. It turns out that she had made a mistake while inputting my scholarships way back in winter quarter while I was away. That's why I hadn't gotten my refund check when I was expecting it. And all it took her to fix was 2 clicks. Over the next couple of days, I was on fire. I talked with a bunch of other students about my trouble, and a bunch of them admitted that she had been watching Netflix in her office every time they had gone to see her. The number of other students whose financial aid had also been severely mishandled was staggering, and every story I heard made me burn hotter. This wasn't another test or ritual of Antioch Strange. This was man-made systemic negligence of Antioch College. As I grew angrier, I felt as though I were growing stronger. All of my hopelessness and fear burned away. Every person inside every office that I barged into heard my whole story and saw the photos that I took of Michelle Guile sitting at her desk at 9:15 a.m. on the first day of the quarter watching Queen of the South instead of working. On Wednesday, I finally received my financial aid refund, and the registration hold because of the unpaid student fees was lifted. Michelle Guile had been replaced with someone who could step in and start fixing her mess. I logged online to finally sign up for my summer classes, and I found that I still couldn't register. This time, my registration was on hold because I hadn't completed my degree plan yet. I couldn't believe it. I still hadn't won. There was no winning at Antioch College, no victory. I wondered why I was still here. But still, I tried to hold on to my anger. It was my anger that made me strong and gave me purpose. I marched through campus and into the office of the registrar, and I knocked on the door of Samuel Moretti's office. I asked if he had a moment to talk, and I stepped inside before he could protest. I felt something then. When I sat down in the office of the registrar and I looked him in the eye, I knew that I was staring into the eyes of Antioch Strange. He stared back at me over that cluttered desk through the broken barrier of reality with all the warped, demonic power of the other side of Antioch College. His office was the heart of the storm. I told him the problem, and I said I didn't even know how to create a degree plan. He told me that I was supposed to work on it with my advisor. I explained that I didn't even know who my advisor was because it had been someone completely different almost every quarter since I arrived at Antioch. I told him that there were so many direct obstacles keeping me from starting my classes for the quarter. I felt like Antioch didn't even want me to be a student here anymore. He didn't even dignify that with an answer, but I could have sworn that I saw a smirk cross his face. He was trying to make me feel powerless. I demanded that he describe the degree plan process. Here's how it went. Once I chose a major, I had to design my course schedule for the next 2 years. I asked where to find the course offering schedule for the next 2 years, and he told me I would have to go speak with each of the professors who taught each of the classes that I would need to take and request their individual projected course offering schedules to factor into my degree plan. He couldn't even tell me which professors I needed to seek out. By the start of the following week, my degree plan was about 90% bullshit, but it was at least something I could turn in, and I was able to start attending class. But by then, I had changed. Now I really understand what Zeke said. My transformation was inevitable. I have always had something strange inside me, but it was Antioch College that lit my soul on fire and turned up the heat until it was forced to crack open, and all that power was forced to manifest just a little bit earlier than it would have, so that I could be strong enough to burn hotter than the blaze around me. I am burning. Now it is week 7 of the quarter, and today was the day of the solar eclipse. But even though my power has manifested and I have resolved to be here and to make a difference in this place, the stress and trauma of everything that I've been through has taken its toll, and my health has been dwindling. I kept trying to blame my symptoms on asthma and allergies, but now I found out that I have walking pneumonia for the 2nd time since moving here. I have been biking to campus every day with pneumonia. So I was weaker than normal when Storm targeted me. I saw a few of the first years being possessed by the strange, and they lashed out at me when I tried to intervene. Storm saw this and used the opportunity to spread the influence of her hive mind control. By targeting me and giving the others a common enemy, she gained more followers into her faction. But the thing is, if there is one thing I have learned about myself so far in 2017, it's that I grow stronger when I am cornered. She thought I'd be vulnerable the day of the eclipse, but she couldn't be more wrong. I grow hotter when I am smothered. I burn brighter when it is dark. The burning of my anger does not destroy me, it forges me. I've made this recording, and I'm going to leave it in good hands because there are others who want things to change here. We have been changed by Antioch College and the strangeness, but we are not made powerless by it. Just the opposite. We can change this place by being here. our strangeness can grow and adapt and influence this ecosystem in return. And we can someday change the entire world. I'm going to start now with the monsters out there. I'm ready. I am burning.